This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Teen boy charged for Portmore shooting. A 17-year-old boy who allegedly shot two persons in Portmore, St. Catherine last Wednesday is to face the court on gun charges. The boy has been charged with illegal possession of firearm, illegal possession of ammunition, and 2 counts of wounding with intent arising from the incident in the Gortuka area. A court date is being finalized, the police say. About 8:55 p.m. on June 22, the teen allegedly pounced upon a man and a woman and opened gunfire at them. The injured persons were assisted to the hospital, where they were treated and released. The teen's attorney handed him over to the police on July 2. He was charged on Wednesday. Committee cautioned against the free-for-all at gun ranges. The Joint Select Committee reviewing the Firearms Prohibition Restriction and Regulations Act 2022 has been asked to consider making provisions for prospective firearm licensed applicants to access approved gun ranges for introductory training. The matter was raised by Government Senator Charles Sinclair as the committee wrapped up a clause-by-clause review of the bill on Thursday. If an unlicensed person goes to a firearm licensing authority-approved firing range for the purpose of being introduced to firearms, and in the process handles a firearm and shoots at a target to establish competence or for some training in order to determine for themselves whether they want to make an application for a permit, is that person handling a firearm illegally, or do we have to make any provisions for them, he asked. Chief Technical Director in the Ministry of National Security, Rohan Richards, said individuals would have to get the approval of the Firearm Licensing Authority to do so. Otherwise, he added, they would be in contravention of the Act. Sinclair was supported by opposition member Fitz Jackson, who said that the spouse of a licensed firearm holder who is considering an application may want to be exposed to the use of a firearm in a controlled environment, being a gun range, with a licensed trainer before doing so. Why would we want to prohibit that, Jackson asked. Richards said that the FLA operates in a similar context to the driver-learner relationship in which the learner ought to receive a permit. The Chief Technical Director explained that changing this provision would open the door for persons with nefarious intent to seek training and improve their target shooting. We ought to think a little bit more carefully about this. I would not personally, and from a technical perspective, want us to have that approach where we give this free-for-all for anybody to be able to start training persons to do target shooting without the requisite permit from the authority, Richards reasoned. University lecturer among 3 extradited to stand a trial in the U.S. University lecturer Russell McLean was among 3 Jamaican fugitives extradited on Thursday to stand a trial in the United States. The other individuals are businessman St. Devon Cover and Dennis Rowe, who have been indicted for money laundering. They left the island accompanied by U.S. Marshals. Mr. McLean, a behavioral and social sciences lecturer at Northern Caribbean University in Mandeville, Manchester, is wanted for prosecutors in Florida for alleged offenses that date back to 1997. He waived his right to an extradition hearing in May and agreed to go to the U.S. to face charges of armed sexual battery, armed burglary of a dwelling, armed kidnapping, burglary, possession of burglary tools, and resisting law enforcement with violence. St. Devon Cover and Dennis Rowe also waived their rights to stand the trial on charges of money laundering, conspiracy, and aiding and abetting. They were among 19 individuals indicted in Boston, Massachusetts, as part of a major drug and money laundering probe. U.S. prosecutors alleged that the men were involved in a sophisticated international money laundering organization, which handled the millions of U.S. dollars in drug trafficking proceeds from Colombian cartels through the United States, Caribbean, and European banking systems. St. Catherine businessman Steve Wright Afik, who was indicted along with the 2 men, is fighting his extradition. He is scheduled to return to the St. Andrew Parish Court on July 22. The news has been informed that 2 more fugitives are scheduled to be extradited this week. Data show that 40 Jamaicans have been extradited to the US and UK since 2018. Most of those extradited to the US were placed on trial for lottery scamming, drug trafficking, money laundering, and sex crimes. 10 finalists selected for Festival Song Competition. 10 finalists have been selected for this year's Festival Song Competition. Entries were reopened after the Ministry of Culture reversed the decision to cancel the annual festival due to poor quality of the more than 120 entries initially received. According to the organizers, more than 200 entries were submitted during the one-week extension period. Culture Minister Olivia Grange, who announced the successful entries on Thursday afternoon, said the top 10 is a mixture of songs from the previous set which were originally shortlisted, as well as new entries. The winning song will be selected following 2 televised shows on July 14 and 28. The song will be selected by a combination of judges' scores and the telephone voting by members of the public. However, Minister Grange said only 5 votes per day will be allowed from any one person, individual, or source. Voting will be opened on the Reggae Jamaica app.
The 10 songs that were selected from new entries, as well as the panel decided to go back and review the shortlist that was initially selected for review. And so a combination of a couple of entries from the first set that were shortlisted and new entries that came in when we reopened have given us a combination of the 10 songs that we now have. We will open for voting on the Reggae Jamaica app, and the Reggae Jamaica app will be open for voting by the diaspora, and no one source can vote more than 5 times for the day. There is a cap on the number of votes that can be polled by any one person or individual or source.
Clarendon man charged after confessing to murdering bedridden wife. A 69-year-old man who confessed to Monday's throat-slashing murder of his bedridden wife Pamela at their home in Lioneltown, Clarendon, has been charged. He is Thaddeus Gregory. The two lived on Toronto Terrace in the Lioneltown housing scheme. About 7 a.m. Monday, Pamela's grandson found the 67-year-old woman lying on a bed with blood coming from her neck, the police said in a statement Thursday. Gregory allegedly attacked his grandson with a knife when he tried to assist his grandmother. A tussle ensued. The grandson managed to free himself and alerted neighbors, who called the police. The police responded and Gregory was taken into custody, where he allegedly confessed to killing his wife. His court date is being arranged. One source who knows Pamela's husband well expressed a shock at the incident, noting that he was known to be a decent man who got along well with community folk, especially because of his trade as a mechanic and upholsterer. Westmoreland Circuit Court challenged by low juror numbers, DPP Llewellyn says. Paula Llewellyn, the Director of Public Prosecution, has expressed a concern that efforts to settle matters in the nation's courts are being affected by low juror numbers. Only 13 jurors reported for duties on June 6, some 3 weeks after the commencement of the Westmoreland Circuit Court. We had a problem at the beginning of the circuit. We really only had not more than 12 or 13 jurors, but we were able to do 2 cases, Llewellyn told reporters while she was in the parish last week. 6 of those jurors returned a guilty verdict to convict a 17-year-old boy for rape, buggery, and murder committed against a 9-year-old schoolgirl in 2018. This case took us nearly 2 weeks, and we have a volume of cases over 200, the DPP said. There are 105 new cases among the full list of 298 cases on the court's mention list. Of that number, 193 have been traversed from other court settings, where 64 are for murder, 68 are for possession of identity information, which is an offense under the Law Reform Fraudulent Transactions Special Provisions Act, widely referred to as lottery scamming law. Sexual offense accounts for 42 of the remaining 61 cases on the traverse list, and the other 19 cases have a combination of wounding, assault, and causing death by dangerous driving and other offenses. She urged the Jamaicans to make themselves available to serve as jurors. It is a very important duty as citizens because you are the standard bearer of what is appropriate behavior in your community, said Llewellyn. I would appeal and implore all Jamaicans, when you get your jury summons, please come forward. She said the trial and the conviction of the 17-year-old for rape and murder was the first full-blown jury case since the resumption of jury trials, which had been suspended to mitigate against the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. We did one before in respect of an 80-year-old woman who had been burgled and raped. At the end of her evidence, the accused threw in the towel and pleaded guilty, so we were not able to go the full length in respect of the jury coming to a verdict, the DPP explained. She stressed the value of the experience. I consider myself an advocate. I love appearing before the jury, especially in cases like this. It is so important that the man and the woman on the streets, who are pairs of the family of the victim and the family of the accused, it is important that they really have a say in the type of standards of behavior that would be acceptable in the community here, Llewellyn said. Llewellyn shared in the majority of situations, Jamaica by and large still has a majority of its citizens who are part of the alliance of the law-abiding. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.